Thank you for listening to the show on Really Big Something Channel. October 6th, 2017.
The Kuhner Report, presented by Kelly Financial Services. This is the Kuhner Report.
Was this an ISIS terrorist attack? That is now the question on almost everybody's mind. Okay, my friends, Jeff Kuhner, Boston's bulldozer. A lot to talk about today, but without question, the lead story, there's no getting around it. What was first immediately dismissed by the FBI now is no longer being discarded, and frankly, it shouldn't. I'm not saying ISIS was behind it. We still don't know. However, what was once considered remote is now at least being considered as possible. Here is now the absolute latest, my friends. So, we are now finding out that ISIS is claiming, as you know, responsibility for the terrorist attack. There's nothing new there. However, what is highly unusual is that now they have not just doubled down, they have tripled down. They have never done this before. So ISIS has now come out through their newsletter, their official newsletter, an entire page whereby not only do they claim credit for the Las Vegas terrorist attack, for the Las Vegas massacre, saying it was a terrorist attack, but furthermore, they now claim that Stephen Paddock had converted to Islam 6 months ago. That in fact he was given a title, a name, as a soldier of the caliphate, Abu Abdul Bakir al-Amriki. Abu Abdul Bahir al-Amriki. So he was known as al-Amriki. This was, they say, his code name. Apparently now, even the New York Times correspondent from the Middle East says that intelligence agencies all over the Middle East are claiming that on social media, ISIS insurgents, members of ISIS, in private on their chatter, are now saying that this was an ISIS operation. Not only now is ISIS claiming he was converted six months ago, not only are they tripling down, which they've never done before, they're basically going all in, but now there is even more disturbing evidence about this man's unhinged behavior. You now have people claiming, neighbors of his, that although he owned multiple homes, he never stayed in any one home for more than 2 or 3 weeks at a time. That he and his girlfriend lived almost like hermits. They would come into a home, let's say one in Florida or one in Reno or one in Mesquite or wherever, stay there for 2-3 weeks, no furniture in the house whatsoever. Yet in multiple homes, they all noticed what they called was a huge safe the size of a fridge. We now know that those safes were used to stockpile explosives, AK-47s, AR-15s, AR-10s, thousands and thousands and thousands of rounds of ammunition. According to the neighbors, they always seem to be on the move. They would have the shutters closed, no furniture in the house, they're there 2-3 weeks, and then they move. And they kept living like this for years. Furthermore, it is now coming out that the shooter, Stephen Paddock, had what the FBI is now calling a secret life. That beyond the veneer of him being a high-rolling gambler, somebody always had a drink in his hand, a cruiser, a real estate investor, that apparently for years he had been obsessed with stockpiling weapons, stockpiling ammunition, and they say it is now without a doubt that this attack was carefully, meticulously planned and crafted. Not only was it meticulously planned and crafted, they now believe it is absolutely impossible for him to have pulled off this massacre, this mass shooting, without at least the aid of one accomplice, maybe several other accomplices. And so what all of this now shows is several things conclusively. Number one, this was not the act simply of one lone wolf. He must have had some kind of assistance or aid. This is not the act of somebody who is just snapped or went off the bend, because clearly it took him months, if not years, to plan and prepare and stockpile all of this ammunition. Furthermore, they now have found out that the explosives that were used, they found 50 pounds of tannerite in a car parked near the Mandalay Bay with another 1,600 rounds in the car. They found pounds of explosives in multiple of his homes. The tannerite that was found, as well as the ammonium nitrate, especially the tannerite, is the exact kind of explosive that was used last year in September of 2016 in a terrorist attack by an Islamic radical in Chelsea, New York, that blew up a building and injured 31 people. So the kind of explosives that he had, the fact that they were in his car, 50 pounds, that they were also located in containers in multiple of his homes, the kind of explosives that have been used by Islamic terrorists in America and in other attacks around the world, also now makes the probability, or let's say the possibility, of an ISIS link now becoming a bit more plausible and believable. You have to ask yourself these questions. Why did he keep moving around from house to house? Why did he have all of these explosives? Why was he purchasing over 3 rifles at a minimum a month going back into last year? What the FBI now believe is that he had planned an escape route, that he planned to not only survive, but to escape. And they believe that the car that he had may have been there deliberately to continue his attack. In other words, once he massacred those people at the concert, he was hoping to escape, maybe get into his car, and who knows, maybe kill more people, blow up more people, launch a car attack, or trigger a car bomb. We don't know, but that raises the possibility that maybe he planned to continue his attack once he was finished at the Mandalay Bay. Furthermore, they now say without a doubt he was also targeting the massive aviation fuel tanks. They're these huge white, almost cone-like containers, like an ice cream cone, that were near the concert. They are placed there strategically because it's close to the Las Vegas airport to help refuel the planes. They say that he kept shooting at those aviation fuel tanks to try to obviously blow them up, and that would blow downtown Las Vegas sky high. ISIS, several months before the attack, dramatically illustrated that they were planning to bring Las Vegas, the symbol of American capitalism, the symbol of American wealth, that they were going to bring Las Vegas to its knees. So they had advertised to the world that they were planning a potential target to hit Las Vegas. Now, as I reported yesterday, it's now coming out that he also was planning potentially to hit Chicago, the Lollapalooza Music Festival, as well as scouting out Fenway Park to hit an outdoor event there as well. So he was also scouting out other areas that he wanted to attack. Finally, there is the missing woman. Witnesses have now said that he was clearly seen with another woman several days before the terrorist attack, that apparently he had been gambling heavily at the Mandalay Bay Casino, again with a drink in hand, and that as he was gambling, as he was boozing, as he was having a good time, there was a woman that was constantly seen with him. Now, according to his girlfriend, the one that had just conveniently left to the Philippines, who then got wired $100,000, that she says was for a house for the family, but let that go. I don't believe her, but let that go. She is now telling the Daily Mail, or at least a family friend to be more specific, is now telling the Daily Mail that she was constantly, quote, nervous and jittery around him, and that apparently he had a thing for sleeping with prostitutes that were offered by these casinos in Las Vegas. Adam Lefevre, hope I'm pronouncing his last name correctly, he's a man, an Australian man, who is a family friend. He knows the sisters of the girlfriend as well, knew Stephen Paddock. Apparently he traveled to Las Vegas with Stephen Paddock in 2015, said that he went into one of Paddock's homes, that it was a room full of guns, and that Stephen Paddock had been taking up offers of free prostitutes from casinos. Now, why is this relevant? Because maybe the woman that everybody's hunting for may have just been a prostitute. I mean, I don't know, but you have to at least look into that possibility. So this may not have been an accomplice. This may have just been a prostitute that he wanted to have sex with before he pulled off his massacre and his mass shooting. The girlfriend has told, Mary Lou Danley has told the FBI that she believes that Stephen Paddock suffered from mental health issues. That in particular, she said months before the attack, he would lie in bed at night, moaning and groaning and screaming. She says that he was in some kind of a mental or physical anguish. What that mental or physical anguish was, she doesn't know. I don't know. Did she ever ask him? Hey, Stevie, why are you yelling, oh God, at night? Stevie, why are you yelling out in pain, Stevie? Stevie, what's wrong, Stevie? But apparently she doesn't know why. She just says that he was yelling and screaming out in pain. When everything is said and done, we still have no motive. There is no definitive motive or motivation. In fact, now, the longer this thing goes on, there is almost a growing sense that we may never know definitively. There are now several reports out that there could be an ISIS tape. That there, according now to a couple of multiple media reports, several, that there are now rumors being floated within the FBI that there is an ISIS tape with Stephen Paddock in it. Unless we get a hold of that tape, we may ultimately now never know definitively, conclusively, why he did it, or was this an ISIS terrorist attack. What is to me now crystal clear, and to me there's no getting around this fact, the mainstream media, the fake news media, has been lying to us from the beginning. They have been caught in another lie. They told us that this was no link to terrorism whatsoever. They had no right to tell us because they didn't know. They told us definitively that this was the massacre perpetrated by one man. Now we know it was almost impossible that it was done by one man. They lied. They told us that this had nothing to do with political ideology or religious extremism or Islam or mental health illness, that he was a man who just snapped. That has blown up in their face. And instead, the reason why they ran with that narrative, even though it is now factually being blown to smithereens, is because they want the story to be about gun control. They want this narrative to be crazy white man just utterly goes nuts and berserk, grabs guns and starts killing people. We need to have more gun control. We got to go after the AR-15s. We got to go after the semi-automatic weapons. We got to go after bump stocks. We got to have universal background checks. We got to start grabbing guns. This has been their agenda from the beginning. They want reality to conform to their ideology. They don't want reality to conform to reality. And that's why they're in the lying business. And so the question I have for you is this. The question the media refuses to ask. Do you think now it is looking more and more likely that maybe this had some connection or link to ISIS or Islamic terrorism? 617-266-6868. Was this an ISIS terrorist attack? Your calls next. 1225 here on the great WRKO. Okay, what was now immediately dismissed, I don't know why they did it, by the FBI and the mainstream media is now becoming, I'm not saying probable, but clearly now a possibility. Was this part of an ISIS terrorist attack, the massacre at Mandalay? Mark in New York, you're up first. Go ahead, Mark.
Jeff, first I want to commend you guys at Kuhner Country. I mean, I remember on Monday, I was the first call, and I came in severely criticizing the official story. And since that moment, citizen journalism and you guys have just been amazing. So I want to say thank you for that.
Oh, thank you, Mark. Well, honestly, I remember your call. It was a great call. It's common sense. We're just applying common sense.
And Jeff, just one other point. I know the guy is dead, but I don't know if we should be so quick to demonize the dead. I mean, if I'm in a hotel and they say room service and I answer the door and there's a guy with a gun in his hand, and then he shoots up the place, the police come, they find my dead body in the room, they're going to think that I did it. And I'm a good person. I didn't do anything. So, yes, I know he's dead. We could probably make up any story about him, but we just don't know.
Mark, in other words, you think maybe there were a couple of other shooters and he may have been a victim in all this, or a patsy, or maybe an accomplice, but not the actual shooter?
Jeff, I'll put it this way. I never thought I would become one of those 9/11 was an inside job kind of people, but ever since Monday, I've just becoming slowly more skeptical. I'm falling down the rabbit hole more and more every day.
Mark, thank you very much for that call. Look, my sense, if you want to know my honest opinion, I think he was clearly involved in this in some way, shape, or form. He did buy all the guns. He did have multiple homes. His behavior was clearly very strange. He did have those cars with explosives. They did find all those explosives in his cars, the ammunition. So clearly, I think he was involved. To me, there's no question about that. Now, did he have help? I think he did. Were there accomplices? I think there were. I think it's pretty obvious. Even the sheriff. And notice this, by the way. I said this to Brittany yesterday after the show. Notice the FBI, and I'm going to tell you right now, the top brass of the FBI, I do not trust or believe. I don't believe him. The guy now who's flapping his mouth all the time, doing national media interviews, is Deputy Director Andrew McCabe. Who's Deputy Director Andrew McCabe? He's Comey's boy. He's an Obama hack, a Democratic hack, who had the Clintons' bagman, Terry McAuliffe, was funneling off hundreds of thousands of dollars to help Andrew McCabe's wife run in a state Senate race in Virginia. So he's completely politicized. I think the guy's absolutely incompetent, to be honest with you. He's a bureaucratic, political Obama hack. So there's nothing from Andrew McCabe's mouth that I trust or believe. So notice what's going on here. The media has been lying to us. We've caught them now, lie after lie. The official, the top brass of the FBI, I don't trust them as far as I can throw them. But who's the one that keeps giving us the evidence? It's the sheriff, and it's the cops on the ground. If you notice, it's the foot soldiers. They're the ones who keep putting out, giving us briefings or conferences, news conferences, that keeps contradicting the official media narrative and what the top brass of the FBI has been telling us. They're the ones that said, no, he had to have an accomplice. No, he couldn't have done it alone. That's BS. He was the one that said this was meticulously well planned. This guy didn't snap. He's the one that's saying, don't tell me this guy has mental health issues. It wasn't to that degree. In other words, every time the media wants to run with the narrative, it's the police on the ground, not the political hacks at the FBI or the mainstream media that's been giving us the facts and only the facts. And so to me, it's obvious. They want to politicize what happened and mislead the American people. And I'm telling you, Jeff Kuhner, I'm not going to allow him to do it. 617-266-6868. Let's take it to Evan Heidrich for the latest update in the newsroom. 12:36 here on the great WRKO. Okay, the plot thickens. Now there are stories coming out that there may be an ISIS tape. We don't know, but at least that's what the scuttlebutt at some corners of the FBI is. ISIS now for the third time. They've not just doubled down, they've tripled down. Again, they could be lying, but they do say this was part of a terrorist attack on Las Vegas, on the Las Vegas Strip, and that Stephen Paddock had allegedly converted to Islam 6 months ago. They did find explosives, 50 pounds of tannerite in his car, over 1,600 rounds of ammunition that now the local police say was clearly intended for him to as an escape vehicle and then to use to further murder other people or blow up buildings on the Strip. And so my question to you is this. Do you think ISIS had any role in this attack? And the motivation? We're now on what? Day 5? Still no clear motive. 617-266-6868. Do you think we'll ever know what really drove him to murder and injure all those people? Lines are loaded. Eddie in Watertown. Go ahead, Eddie.
Jeff, how you doing? I believe you're right on the money. I would squeeze his girlfriend. She knew everything from the get-go, okay? You're not telling me she's living together as feet with this guy. What do you think she took off to the Philippines for? And why do you think he sent $100,000? Take care of her, take it easy. And you're right on the money. He was a compulsive gambler. He met someone in the casinos or whatever, and they converted them to Islamic Jihad, and that's what happened. The puzzle was slowly going to unfold. But that girl, his girlfriend, knew every goddamn thing. Everything.
Eddie.
And look at it. Huh?
Eddie, let me ask you, and I want to ask everybody this question, okay? All of you. Every time ISIS has struck, when their terrorists hit, the one thing they always say is, Allah Akbar, right? This is for Allah, the glory of Allah. On this one, so far, unless we're being withheld information, he never shouted out Allah. He never claimed it was for Allah. He didn't scroll Allah or anything like that in the hotel room that we're aware of. So if he was ISIS, how come he never told us it was on behalf of ISIS?
Well, they educate these dummies. They brainwash them. Stay under the radar. Keep your mouth shut. It's leading to everything you're saying. All the weapons, sniper's nest, all the destruction, pounds of explosives in the car, wiring money. Girlfriend takes off to the Philippines, and they said within 6 months he converted to Islam. And believe me, it's you're right on the money. Just stay on it. And Las Vegas, they're losing millions every day, billions, and that's what that was the ultimate, had to be the ultimate plan to hurt them bad. And that's
Eddie, thank you for that call. Well, that's why they issued that threat months ago. I mean, look, think about it. You want to destroy America. You attack us from within. You put the economy to a standstill. We're finished. So they wanted to attack if it is ISIS. That's why they threatened Las Vegas. This is a symbol of American capitalism. Look, come on. Elvis played at Las Vegas. All the big shows are in Las Vegas. You go gambling in Las Vegas. How many movies have been made about Las Vegas? So if you're some Muslim, goat herder in some cave in Afghanistan or Syria, you're thinking, Abdullah, we hit Las Vegas. Oh my God, Americans panic. That's why they hit the Twin Towers. That's why they wanted to hit Congress or the Pentagon on 9/11. It's obvious they want to strike at the big symbols of American power and American might. If it was ISIS, 617-266-6868. Tom in New Jersey. Go ahead, Tom.
Jeff, God bless you. Red, white, and blue to you and your family.
Thank you, Tom.
Hey, Jeff, before I make my point, I just want to do a quick shout-out to Kobe Cheese Bryant. Hey, Kobe, stick the NBA where the sun doesn't shine. But now, Jeff, my main point today was, remember John Kelly warned us just recently that there's 1,000 open files of possible domestic terrorism. That's where we got to keep the focus, Jeff, as you've done so brilliantly. Once I hear the word magazine or bump stock, instead of domestic terrorism, I basically consider you a traitor to the red, white, and blue. This is about domestic terrorism, and there's only one way to fight this, is for us true blue, red, white, and blue Americans to watch, and if you see something, say something, because this is going to take a united effort by all the good people to keep us safe.
Tom, thank you very much for that call. Look, let me tell you who I would now really zero in on hard. And I wouldn't call her a person of interest. I would call her a suspect. I would. I don't know why they're not doing it. And that's the girlfriend, Mary Lou Danley. You're not going to tell me with a straight face that you're living with the guy, sleeping with the guy, partying with the guy, gambling and going to casinos with the guy. By the way, they were always seen together. Starbucks, at the casinos, you couldn't separate the two. And you want to tell me that the guy you're sleeping with, the guy you're living with, the guy you're partying with, the guy you're gambling with, you have no idea that this guy's amassing explosives right underneath your nose? Thousands of rounds of ammunition. He's got these massive gun rooms that he's showing off to all your friends, and you don't suspect a thing? You don't suspect a thing. And then just when he's about to plan his attack and execute it, all of a sudden, just conveniently, Shazam, you're in the Philippines. And not only that, if you know anything about the Philippines, $1,000 could last you a year in the Philippines. $10,000, I'm telling you, in the Philippines, gets you any house that you want. $100,000 in the Philippines is not $100,000 in America. So to convert it to something close to American money, that's almost the equivalent of wiring somebody, say, $1 million or $2 million in America. You send $100,000 to the Philippines, you're taking care of her, her family, her parents, everybody for the rest of their lives. So you're sending somebody that kind of big money just before you commit a terrorist atrocity? And she's trying to tell us, I know nothing. He was a good, decent, quiet, caring man. He shot everybody and killed them. But outside of killing people, he was a good man. Good, quiet man. Good, caring man. Maybe he saw some prostitutes. Yes, but I loved him and he loved me. And you want me to believe that? That you knew nothing? No. Lady, start talking. Notice, it's the same thing all the time. The Tsarnaevs, I could run down the whole list. The wives, nobody knows nothing. It's being done right in front of their eyes, but nobody knows nothing. Like San Bernardino, remember that, the parents? I didn't know. I didn't know, my little Abdullah. But there are bombs everywhere. Pipe bombs everywhere. Explosives open in the house. I didn't notice. I thought my little Abdullah was building a little rocket. He's just so handy with his hands like that. He's a wannabe scientist. I would sit her down and say, I don't believe your story. It's 100% BS. And if you don't start telling me what I want to start hearing, in other words, what really went on, lady, you're going to get yourself in big trouble. And notice, by the way, the innocent one is already lawyered up. The moment she came back and was interviewed by the FBI at LA, the moment she landed at the airport, there's the lawyer. So the first thing she did was not cooperate. It was get a lawyer. 617-266-6868. Sally in Beverly. Go ahead, Sally.
Good afternoon, Jeff. Thank you for taking my call.
My pleasure.
I'm old school, and I tend to think cautiously and inductively. And what I'm going to say, I want you to understand that I do not have a tinfoil hat on. Okay? I don't wear them. But I'm really questioning who the operatives were involved in this assault. And the reason that I say that is that our law enforcement is highly capable people for the shifting evidence, none of which we've seen, by the way. We only keep hearing what I think are rationalizations. You know, there's a lot of things going on right now that the deep state would be concerned with, and that is our economy, a pending derivatives collapse. It's a huge bubble that can tear everything down. There's some real issues in terms of President Trump and the fact that the globalists really can't deal with it. I think there are major issues that people need to be concerned about in terms of Second Amendment and potential confiscation of weapons. Not right now, but could lead to it. In my thinking, the military precision of this assault and all of the convenient, what I think is staging, a lot of what I see, you know, the houses, all that stuff, that's staging. You know, the crime scene, that's staging. Supposedly ISIS, they doth protest too much. 3 times, that's over the top. We have a suicide note. If it was ISIS, it would be in there, you know, to the greater good of Allah. That would be clearly there. But they're not showing us anything. So I'm tending to believe, and I know a lot of people will not agree with me maybe, people were injured and killed, no doubt. I have great sorrow and empathy for all of those people. But I believe this is deep state. And I do believe that there's more at stake than the obvious that we're seeing. And, you know, you can discuss that if you want, or just...
Sally, look, thank you for that call. Look, I'm skeptical of that. I know many people in this show believe that. I've been getting a lot of texts. This could have been a CIA or inside job or FBI inside job, or maybe one of the theories that's out there. And remember, in absence of a motive, right, there are only theories that can fill the vacuum right now. One of the theories is that maybe he was an undercover FBI guy or CIA guy himself who was involved in gun running, sort of like Fast and Furious, running guns, this time, though, with ISIS in the southern Philippines. And maybe this is all something related to that, and it went bad. So there are multiple conspiracy theories out there. To me, I am just following the facts. I'm just following the facts of this case, okay? Here is what we do know, definitively, without a doubt. 59 people dead. 58. I don't want to count him. They count him as 59. I don't count him as, to me, he's scum. So I don't care whether he died or not. So 58 dead, under 500 now. They revised the number. So under 500 injured. This was clearly done at a high level. Everybody says that. It took an incredible amount of skill, training, planning to pull anything like this off. This was meticulously crafted and planned months in advance. Now, think about that. This is beyond the capacity of one 64-year-old semi-alcoholic, that's what he was, gambling guy, retired accountant, to be able to do on his own. That is impossible. Even the sheriff, if you notice at the news conference, throws his arms up, like almost in disgust at the media. You want me to say something, a narrative I just don't want to go along with. He must have had help. He did have at least one accomplice, if not multiple accomplices. So he didn't do it alone. That's without a question now. There was a receipt. This has not been refuted. It can't be refuted. That there were 2 people in that room that they ordered food, lunch, dinner, whatever you want to call it. So there was somebody with him in the room. in the room, not in the casino floor, in the room. So that person obviously must have seen that. It was full of ammunition. It was full, 23 guns. The person must have seen what was happening, or at least known what was going on in that room. Okay? He was also seen by multiple witnesses, again, this is irrefutable, with a woman on the casino floor, gambling and drinking and partying with him days before the attack. That's irrefutable. So far, everything I'm telling you is irrefutable. He had planned, allegedly, to do this in Chicago. He had already booked a room, a condo, a week before at another event in Las Vegas, just 5 miles north. So this is somebody who wanted to hit an outdoor venue. He wanted to kill as many people as possible. So here is now what we know definitively. No speculation, definitively. Now, if that's the case, then where did he get the explosives? How come nobody noticed that this guy was amassing a private army for nearly a couple of years? How does he manage to pull off this, stunning attack? And you're telling me, according to the official media narrative, that nobody else helped him? Impossible. So what that leads me to believe is this. There was a network or a cell involved. There was a conspiracy to commit this attack, that he clearly was trying to hide this conspiracy as much as possible, and that he clearly was leading a double life. Now, this smacks of terrorism, whether it be Islamic terrorism, political left-wing terrorism, or this guy was involved in something even more nefarious, whether it be gun running, all these guns going back to the Philippines, all this money going back and forth from the Philippines, the wife traveling all over the world repeatedly, them moving house to house to house to house. Who does that? I don't care. Gambler, no gambler. My friends, something doesn't smell right, and everybody knows it. Glenn and Carver. Go ahead, Glenn. Hello, Glenn?
Jeff, you there?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
I can't agree with you more, Jeff, with the girlfriend. She has put a spell of voodoo or some kind of hypnosis on this guy. And he's got the money. He had the money. He could have been a supplier. I don't know, Jeff. When I look at this guy, when I saw his pictures, and you've seen him, not when he was younger, now, he looks like a weak, feeble, sickly person to me. I just can't see someone doing something like this all by himself.
It's impossible.
That's what I think.
No, it's impossible. That's my point. Like, they want us to, they're trying to anyway. The mainstream media and the top FBI, not the guys on the ground and certainly not the Las Vegas police, but the top FBI and the media, they want us to believe the impossible. It's impossible. Now, notice this, okay? Just very quickly, notice this. What was the thing the media came out and the top FBI right away, within 6-8 hours of the shooting, that this could not be tied to terrorism? Immediately, no ties. How do you know that? No. And that the girlfriend was not involved. Well, how do you know that? So they had to rule her out right away, and they had to rule out terrorism right away. The moment I saw that, I said, nah. Something is up. We're going to discuss this with Ambassador John Bolton, and it now looks like Congress is going to move to ban bump stocks. And the Trump administration seems open. Is more gun control the answer? All of this, so much more. Don't touch that dial.
The voice of Boston is you. 680 WRKO Boston, 93.7 WEEI HD2 Lawrence, Boston. It's 1 o'clock.